Michelle from the Malala Public Library, and this morning we're going to show you how to make kombucha one way. There's multiple ways to make kombucha, but this is one way that I have been using for about 4 or 5 years. Kombucha basically is a fermented tea which has lots of health benefits. The main ingredients are you need water or tea. Black tea is usually the best form to use at first, and sugar, and you need a SCOBY, which is the live organism which ferments the tea. So the first thing we are going to do is we are going to make the sweet tea. You can use loose leaf or you can use tea bags. I tend to use organic black tea. The SCOBY seems to grow the best daughters from this. So per any type of container, basically what you're doing is a concentrated tea. We're going to be adding water to it. So you just want to have enough tea that you're going to make into sweet tea. So I've put 6 tea bags into boiling hot water. You just kind of stir it up. You can use any type of container you want to do. We just kind of get that going and then we let it brew for about 5 minutes. That can go to the side now. The second thing I do is I do like chia seeds. Chia seeds are one thing that has a very medicinal properties. If you are deciding to use chia seeds, which you put with the finished product, you just take tepid water and you have to add the chia seeds and it needs to sit for a while. That's what gives it the gel properties. I've put 3 tablespoons of chia seeds, which is a 1/4 cup. This is just a pint jar. It's tepid water. You just pour it in, you stir it, and while it sits, after a while, it starts getting a gel-like properties and it starts breaking down the chia seeds for consumption. Okay, this is a finished kombucha that I had processed. Kombucha usually processed anywhere from 7 to 28 days. The longer it sits fermenting, the more vinegar-like taste. But the pH level for kombucha to process it should be between 2.5 and 3.5 on pH. If at any time it tastes funny or smells, dump it. It's your health. It's not worth drinking some bad tea. So what I'm going to do is just test the pH level in the product underneath the SCOBY, and that's the SCOBY. So what it is, it's going to be the mother with the daughter that forms with each that's fun. With each processing, a new daughter is formed. So I am just going to pull out a little bit of the kombucha. You take your pH test strip, you stick it in for anywhere about 15 seconds, and you then need to see what the pH level is, because you don't want to process it if it's too high or too low. Okay, that should be good. So on the sides of the pH strips, which this one is actually a pH test strips, and I got it through the company I originally got my SCOBY for, but you can get them online or at a lot of commercial venues. But basically the kombucha right now is at 3.2, which is right in the middle. So kombucha can be drinking plain or you can flavor it. One of my favorites is taking fresh fruit, but since the fruit, I have a lot of frozen fruit right now, I'm going to use frozen. What you do is normally per half gallon, or you can put in mason jars or whatever type of container you want to do, is in a half gallon, you want to have at least probably about 3/4 to a cup of fruit in the bottom if you like. I have some frozen mixed berries. And to make this, because it's so thick, what I do add is some organic lemonade, or you can just add plain water. I tend to use organic lemonade sometimes because it just gives it a little bit of sweeter flavor. If you're worried about calories, just go ahead and use water. So what I'm going to do is you can use it in a blender or a food processor. What we want to do is make a nice puree of the fruit with some sort of liquid. Okay, so now we've pureed the fruit that I want to put in the bottom of the jars. I am using, because this is a gallon, I have 2 half gallons here. What I'm going to do is pour the pureed fruit in the bottom. And you can add more or less as you like, but the main properties you want to do is get as much kombucha in each of the products that you like. This is looking good. And then now, because I do like chia seed, and you can see how it's thickening up, If it sits a little bit longer, it even get thicker and more gel-like. But this is ready to pour in. I am going to make one with chia seeds and one without. So you just kind of pour it in. Since I'm only using that, I'm going to use this for something else, but that looks perfect because that way, when I fill the jar up, there's plenty of kombucha to drink. Okay, so we have this sitting here. Now our tea is ready to process to make sweet tea. What you do is you take a clean utensil, and remember, always wash your hands before you process. If you're doing it for family and friends, wear gloves. Since this is just a demonstration and this will be just for my consumption, I am not wearing gloves today, but I super duper washed my hands very well. So what you're gonna do is, if you have loose tea, you just take out the tea bag, but because I have tea bags, I just kind of squeeze to get all the moisture out. It's a little bit warm, but it's not too hot. But the water needs to be warm before you add the sugar because it helps break down the sugar. I use organic, just white sugar, and you just pour it in. You stir it up, and then you just have to wait till all the crystals are dissolved. Okay, now we're ready to process the SCOBY. So what you do is the SCOBY that had fermented, this is about day 10, is you pull out the SCOBY. What's on top is the daughter SCOBY, the bottom is the mother. You can have 3 or 4 SCOBYs at a time. It doesn't affect the flavor of the fermentation. What it does, so the more thicker your SCOBY gets, the less tea you actually have to process. I do like to keep 2 or 3 because you can give them away to friends that you like, or to me, I just like keeping the mother and the daughter together. So this is the SCOBY, and if you do need to thin it out, all you do, see, they're in layers right here. I'm gonna have Becca touch the SCOBY. What do you think it feels like?
I don't know.
Okay, I am going to discard this one. You can throw it into your garden. Some people use it for fertilizer. Some people dry it out and give it to their pets. Always check and make sure the sources. You don't want to get anyone sick trying a product you don't know. So this is basically the daughter. That is going to start my next batch. So we have the kombucha, and let me just pour it in. We're going to throw it into our containers, and then we will be done with this portion of the kombucha. You can then either put a lid on it and put it in the refrigerator. Usually it lasts about 2 weeks, or you can put it in different type of jars if you want. Some people do a second fermentation, and then it makes it more out on a counter. But what it does is then it makes it more, gives it a little bit of seltzer. It makes it a fizz. So anyway, I don't like to have it carbonated, so I tend to just cover these, and then these are ready to go into the refrigerator. I let them sit usually a day or so before I start consuming them because I put fruit with it. But if you use just plain kombucha, you can go ahead and start drinking. So now we have this portion. You notice I kept some in here. You always have to keep a reserve of the kombucha because that is what you put in with your next batch. Since this is a gallon container, I tend to keep 2 cups as a reserve. Some people do continuous, which I don't like. I like doing a clean product and then start over. So I could keep this. It's been pretty much in a pretty sterile house at home, but I'm actually going to wash this before I start processing. So we'll be back in just a second. And I'm going to add the sweet tea mixture. And you got to make sure it's not too hot because you really don't want to cook your SCOBY in there. Then you can add water. I do a lot of visual. What you want to do is, if you want to make like a gallon or 3/4, add as much water as you want. You just have to leave enough headway so that the SCOBY will float on top. So what you do then is you carefully put the SCOBY back in. Sometimes it floats. If it sinks, it's absolutely fine. It will come to the top. And you then cover it with, so we then cover it with either cheesecloth, or I found that coffee filters work great with just a piece of rubber band. What this is it allows it still to breathe, but it stops any like little sugar ants or any type of little flies and stuff from getting in. This kombucha is ready to sit in its home for the next 7 to 28 days. You want to store it in a darker place. If you have a back bedroom, a cabinet with lots of air around it. What I do at home, because we have a lot of natural light coming in, I tend to put it in the darkest bedroom we have, and then I will take a brown paper bag, put it over the top. I don't want to seal it because you don't want to have air circulate around it. So I just take like a big brown paper bag, invert it, and put it on top, just to sit. And then we see our kombucha in another 28 days. So now you have these delicious kombucha ready to drink now, or you can put it in the refrigerator. Go wild with the flavors you want. Some people use ginger and all sorts of other fruits. Some people, and it's just for your personal taste. There's lots of recipes online. There's books on kombucha. You don't have to get fancy equipment. You can get it at your local hardware store. You can go on to any of the shopping stores that you feel comfortable with and just have fun with your kombucha. Have a great day.